Hey guys, welcome to lesson number 5 of this course, From Complete Beginner to Club Player. This is Master Michel, and today you're going to learn to play a little better in the opening. So we're going to study 3 new opening rules that we need to follow. So we're going to see these 3 new opening rules, and also we're going to study a master's game, a super classic master, where of course we will learn a little more about these opening ideas. That being said, let's get started, and the first thing we need to know very well is the main principles, the 3 main principles that we studied in lesson number 2. I'm assuming we already know them. If you're not totally clear about it, you should check lesson number 2. I'm going to put it over here so you can find it easily. And that is that we need to know very well the principles, and they are control the center, develop minor pieces, and castle. Those are things that we need to understand very well at this point in the course. The first rule I want to tell you for today is going to be: do not bring your queen out early in the opening. So the thing is that we need to develop these pieces, the minor pieces, but observe that we never talk about the queen, and it's because we don't develop the queen in the opening. That's a piece that we're going to put to play in the middle game. Very often we can see ideas like e4, e5, and then queen h5 in move number 2, and this is a mistake. Of course, very often beginners win games using this, because the opponent doesn't play the right moves, and of course they can take advantage of that. But assuming a perfect, or maybe a good play by black, it is going to be enough to take advantage of this move, very dubious in the opening. The second rule that we want to talk about in this lesson is: do not move twice the same piece in the opening. Very often in the opening we can see mistakes like, for example, we develop the bishop, let's say to e2, and 1 or 2 moves later we can see that the player as white said, well, I don't want the bishop here, it's passive, so I will develop the bishop to c4. So let's say black plays d6, and then white develops one piece, and then after knight f6 white thinks, I don't like the bishop here, I like it on c4, and then they are moving the same piece again. So the idea is that once you develop your piece, you should not move it again unless something really strong is happening. So the idea is that when you develop that piece, you need to make sure you're putting it at the right square, where you really want that piece to be for some of the next turns. And also remember, in the opening, we're supposed to develop one piece in every turn. Like in one move, we develop the knight, and in the other move, we develop the bishop, and in the other, we want to develop the knight, and maybe in the other we want to castle and then move the pawn to develop the bishop. So that's like the idea in the opening. We want to play with all our pieces like a team, and you don't want to play with only one piece, because if you do that, probably you're not gonna get too much. You need to play with all your pieces together. Also, very often we can see in the opening in beginners games ideas like knight b5, for example, the knight from c3 going to b5, maybe trying to start some kind of attack early in the game. But remember, we need to work with all of them, not with only one. When you work with all your pieces, you're going to control many squares over the board, and you will have much better chances to get good results. And finally, the third rule that I want to highlight in this lesson is: do not play unnecessary pawn moves. In the opening, usually we are going to move one central pawn to control the center, of course, but also to develop the bishop, and maybe later we might need to move the other central pawn to develop the other bishop. And in most of the cases, that is going to be enough. Observe that you don't need to move either of these pawns to develop your pieces. And also keep in mind that pawns cannot move back. So every time you move a pawn, you need to make sure it's a move you really need to play. I want to show you a game by Alekhine. Alekhine was world champion number 4. It's a super classic master, and his games are very instructive. Let's see what happened here. Alekhine is playing as white, and he plays e4, and his opponent plays e6. The most common move among beginners, I guess, is going to be e5. This is the move that you're going to see more often, I guess. But e6 is also a very interesting move. This is what we call French defense. The idea of French defense is that they are not putting the pawn in the center, but they are going to put the other pawn in the center very soon. So they are reinforcing d5 because they want to play that move. In general, when you can put 2 pawns in the center, it's going to be fine. So d4 is the best move for white here, and that's what Alekhine played. And black is playing d5 as we were already anticipating. Here, black is attacking the pawn, so white plays knight c3, defending that pawn, and then black develops and pins the knight. This means that the knight is not defending the center anymore, so the move d takes e4 is a threat again. Here, white plays bishop d3, developing and defending that pawn. Observe that in every move, Alekhine has been playing something to develop pieces. He's been developing one piece in every turn, is the idea. Black plays here bishop takes c3, which is probably a very dubious move, because in general the bishops are going to be slightly better than knights. But also, when we analyze this position, we can see that the knight is pinned, and the bishop is a piece that is pinning. So that's another reason to not trade that bishop for the knight. I mean, black can move the bishop wherever they want, as white cannot move this knight. So yeah, this trade is not very strong by black. And then we have the move b takes c3. At this point, black is playing h6, and here we want to make a pause, because that's one of the rules we highlighted previously. We said we don't want to move, or we don't want to play unnecessary pawn moves, and this is one of those moves that we want to avoid. I guess they are trying to avoid something like bishop g5 later, but that was not a real threat. Developing one piece in every turn was more important here. For example, pawn takes pawn instead of a6, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes, and then knight f6. Developing, creating a threat, getting a tempo with that threat was much better than h6. Well, h6, and then we have another very subtle move by Alekhine, and it is going to be this bishop a3. Something very interesting to keep in mind in the opening is to prevent your opponent from developing. Maybe at this level it's still a little hard to understand this concept, because we are still learning to develop our pieces properly, so it's not so easy to learn to prevent your opponent's development. But well, it's an idea to keep in mind. The bishop on a3 is controlling f8. This means that black is not going to be able to castle, and this is going to be very good, because black king must stay in the center, and black rook will stay out of play. So this might be really good for white. In the game, black plays knight d7, and then we have another move that we need to talk about, and it is the move queen e2. And we need to talk about it because we said that we are not developing the queen in the opening, and we're not going to move the queen in the opening. And then we see Alekhine in move number 7 playing queen e2. How do we understand this move? Well, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that masters know when they can break the rules. That's why they are masters. That's why they are so good, because they know when at some specific moments they need to do something. Even when the rule states one thing, they will do the opposite. So the move queen e2 is actually very well, but when we analyze it, we can see that it's making a lot of sense. He's putting the queen on the same line as the enemy king, so there might be ideas around this. He's taking this pawn on d5. Once he takes, there will be a pin, so the pawn on e6 won't be able to recapture, so that's already a threat. So queen e2 is getting a tempo by threatening the capture of the pawn on the e5. Also, something interesting is that we're not supposed to develop the queen early in the opening, because the queen can be a target. Our opponent can develop pieces and attack our queen at the same time, and that's something that is not happening here. He developed the queen a little, but the queen is still very safe. It's active, but safe. That's good. So the idea is that black cannot develop pieces and attack the queen at the same time. So this means that the move queen e2 is actually fine. Black plays here d takes e4 to defend against the threat e takes d5. And then we have the move bishop takes e4. Black plays here knight f6. He wants to trade the knight for the bishop, and of course we don't want that. This bishop is a very good piece, so we need to retreat. Bishop d3. But the move bishop d3 is also very tricky. There is a hidden idea behind this. Black did not find the threat, and they're just playing a development move like b6. But well, we need to say that the best move for black in this position was actually something like c5. And the idea is that they want to interfere the line so they could be able to castle very soon. So c5 was necessary here for black, and they can survive here. They are going to be more or less fine. However, black is playing here b6, and now Alekhine found a fantastic move to win the game very soon. I'm gonna let you think about it, so try to find it. I'm just going to give you one very small hint. White has checkmate in 2 moves here. Okay, well, at this point, Alekhine played the amazing move. It's a queen sacrifice, queen takes e6. The idea is that our bishop is very powerful here, controlling the dark squares, so we need to give a check. If we give a check, we win the game. The king cannot move. And we need to use the light squares to give that check. This diagonal is closed right now, but we can open it more or less easily by deflecting this pawn away of that line. So the first move is queen takes e6, and black doesn't have too many options. If they play queen e7, we just take it. So main line should be pawn takes queen, and then we have checkmate in 1 with bishop g6. Observe this nice pattern with a bishop controlling the light squares and the other bishop controlling the dark squares. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. Lesson number 6 is going to be over here once it's recorded. Thank you so much, guys. Like, subscribe. See you on the next.